All this meeting to order. Tonight, the invocation will be done by Mr. Albright. Pledge allegiance by Commissioner Kuczynski. Mr. Albright.
Bow your heads with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you that all the pollen is being washed away by this glorious rain. We ask that you watch over us as we are here tonight and do the Lord's, put your Lord's hand on us while we are here. And we ask that you watch over us as we travel home to our destinations. In the Lord's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. This time, roll call, please.
Commissioner Wilkins. Present. Commissioner Albright. Here. Commissioner Kuczynski.
Present.
Commissioner Way.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Gleason.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Wheeler.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, item 4, approval of agenda. A couple of items I want to add. Item 5J will be issues with the Board of Commissioners. That will be by Commissioner Wilkins. And item 5K will be mayoral privilege. That will be by me. Is any other additions or any subtractions need to be made to the agenda? Not hearing any, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion is made by Commissioner Wilkins. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 5-0. Okay. Discussion items. 5A, presentation of proclamation for Telecommunicators Week. I want to deal with my information. All right, I don't know who's supposed to come up here. All of them. All of them. Chief and all of them. Chief and all. And I like shopping all.
You ladies.
I'm gonna let you hold that.
There you go.
Okay. This is a proclamation honoring Freeport's telecommunicators for National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, April 13th through the 19th. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time requiring immediate response from law enforcement, fire, or emergency medical services, and whereas telecommunicators serve as critical first point of contact, obtaining essential information, providing life-saving instructions, and ensuring the swift dispatch of first responders. And whereas the safety of first responders depends on the accuracy and efficiency of the telecommunicators whose monitors their activities, provide critical updates, and coordinate emergency efforts. And whereas the dedicated telecommunicators of Freeport Police Department demonstrate professionalism, composure under pressure, and a commitment to public safety, often working long hours, nights, weekends, and holidays. And whereas these unseen heroes contribute significantly to the protection of life, the apprehension of criminals, the suppression of fires, and the treatment of patients in need. And whereas National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, April 13th through the 19th, 2025, recognizes the valuable services of 911 professionals and their vital role in emergency response. Now, therefore, the City of Freeport Board of Commissioners is hereby proclaimed April 13th through the 19th, 2025, as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in honor of the men and women whose dedication and professionalism keep our county and citizens safe, adopted this 15th day of April 2025. Congratulations.
Let me get a picture. Let me get a picture. All right, everybody look right here. Thank you.
Thank you all, ladies. Those proclamations are always my favorite thing to do. All right, 5B, Parks and Recreation Trust Fund, the Part F Matching Grant Fund, City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners, at the Board's April 1st, 2025 legislative meeting, Ms. Amanda Lewis, who is the project manager for Cartar-Cog, requested approval from the Board to execute a certification and approval document for submittal to the North Carolina Department of Natural Cultural Resources Office of Historical Preservation for a PARTIF grant for the Creedmoor Community Center. Now that this first required submittal to SHPO has been processed, Ms. Lewis is now preparing and assembling the PARTIF grant application for submittal with a due date of May 1, 2025. The next step in this process is for the Board to commit to matching the grant funding that she is requesting. So at this time, I'm going to ask Amanda Lewis if she will come to the podium for her presentation to the Board.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for having me today. As Mr. Turner introduced me, my name is Amanda Lewis with Cartar Regional Council of Governments. I am the Regional Project Manager supporting the grant proposal development. Thank you. So in our previous meeting on April 1st, we reviewed the Part F site plan that has the recreational space, and then from the 2018 plan, it has a proposed future space that's towards the legend, kind of near the ball field at the southern part of the site map. We are proposing that some of the amenities be allowed on any of these the two sites, the one that is not a square, and then the one that's in the far left-hand side of the map now, near the legend. This is due to, on April 1st, our meeting, y'all were brought up that there's a Veterans Memorial that you want to leave that grass space available for people to have a memorial gathering area that's not crowded by visitors. Okay. So this is kind of a review of that. We are requesting match funds for this project. It is a one-to-one match for the Part F grant. Proposed recreation is in the future space, and then the proposed future land acquisition instead of the two recreational spaces that were reserved for future in 2018. So for the one-to-one match grants request in the general fund, we have determined that the invoices we've already received will exceed the original match request of $125,000, but we do not estimate for it to exceed $200,000. Those specific numbers we don't have at this time until we get additional invoices from vendors. So we can still submit the Part F grant application with pending approval of the match fund exact amount. So that's what I wanted to come and present and provide an update for you guys today. And then we will continue to work on the master plan with the contracted vendor to provide any necessary updates, and then we will also present that to y'all once it is completed and ready for your review. So at this time, we have received the SHPO documentation that was submitted on March 27th. It has the assigned project number of ER 25-0827. It's under review with the State Historic Preservation Office. We received your certification and approval by local governing board on April 1st. The Part F public feedback engagement that was set for April 12th, we had reviewed the recreational parks needs survey from 2018 and determined that that application, or the data from that original one, could be used instead of us asking the public to give their feedback on April 12th. There is a larger sample size from the 2018 presentation that you guys had previously. So we are going to use that data, and I will formalize a report and then present it to you all once we have all that data compiled. I'm working with Angie Perry with the City of Creedmoor she's sent that data over to me. Once I have a report developed, I'll present it to you all as well. And then our match fund approval would be for in May or June of 2025, whenever y'all are available for us to get the exact amount approved by the board, depending on whatever pending business you have. So we did update the source of match fund application. Out of an abundance of caution, we put it at 200,000. We don't perceive it to be that amount. However, we wanted to be realistic that it would be greater than the 125,000 we originally asked for. Once we have that match amount finalized, we'll share it with Mr. Turner, the city manager, and then we will present to y'all at an upcoming board meeting in May or June. So again, we will update this master plan to have the volleyball courts that are proposed moved to that southern portion of the map. I don't believe that's available right now in this map, but it will be in the upcoming master plan. And then this is the public engagement survey that was used from 2018. This is the first page of it. It was a very comprehensive analysis of the recreational needs of the community. So we wanted to honor that survey and the data that was provided exclusively for the Part F grant when this project was first started in 2018. Did you guys have any questions for me this evening?
Any questions?
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you so very much for doing this for us. It really helps us greatly, and to have somebody with Car to Our Cause helping us out, it means a lot to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Wade? No questions. Okay. Mr. Manager, any questions?
No questions. Amanda, does that give you everything you need to from this board?
Yes, sir. We'll
Okay.
provide a more updated presentation once the information is available.
Okay, thank you.
We need to do a motion.
Yes,
Is there a motion needed for what you're doing this evening?
No, sir.
No.
okay.
It's in the agenda.
It's in the agenda, that's why I'm
The
looking.
agenda.
That's why I'm asking.
Is the board committing to a 50-50, but we don't know what that amount is yet?
We don't have a determined amount. If you would like to motion to commit, that is, we would love to have that.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to commit,
And what amount? Did you,
not to
We don't have the
exceed,
amount at this
not to exceed $200,000.
Not to exceed.
does that work?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Madam Clerk, if you'll read that motion.
Commissioner Wilkins made a motion to commit to an amount not to exceed the 200,000 for the match of the Part F. And I need a vote.
All right. Any questions? Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Item 5C, Budget Work Session Number 2, Mr. Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Commissioner, since our last budget workshop on April the 1st, 2025, the Finance Director and I have revisited all department budget requests. With input from each department head, adjustments have been made, and this evening's presentation reflects cuts, reductions, and adjustments totaling more than $330,000 from the original request that you saw at your first work session. In addition to these recommended cuts, 5 departments have reduced their budget request from last year by $235,690. 5 departments have increased their budget request by $1,055,028 from FY25 to FY26. I'd like to highlight a few of those increases. If you go to the next slide, the slide with the department's budget on it, Madam Clerk. Yeah, that one right there, yeah. So you can see at the top there, general government decreased $32,000. If you look to the right column, manager's recommendations in the middle. If you look to the far right, $32,300. The purchasing of the wreaths and banners and the emergency operation plan is not a recurring item, so that's why the first one went down. The second one is governing body, increased $21,297. We have a 2025 municipal election this year that's going to cost us about $18,000 according to the elections clerk. We have a slight increase in service on city iPads for $500, and then an increase in miscellaneous events for about $2,575. Those are banquets, parades, state dinners, flowers, those kinds of things. And if you want to know how much it went from one year to the other, I can tell you, but the 2,000 is what that represents, 2,500. Okay, moving on down to the city manager's budget, number, $18,362. Because of the loss of the grant writer that we don't have this year, it was like $43,000. But with some increases and decreases, the manager's budget went down $18,382. Administrative services, you can see an increase there of $79,957. What you're seeing there is an increase in benefit costs for 6 new police officers, / staff, 4 officers and others, but the other part of that is an increase in property liability insurance for about $67,000. So I'm just gonna highlight this for you and keep moving. Finance Department, you may recall, there's a $44,000 increase here for the increase in Davenport Financial Services and the ClearGov software application that Mr. Thames presented about a month ago. Next biggest item is the Police Department, $806,525. Most of it is in anticipation of the population growth. So that request was reduced down to 4 police officers, 1 detective sergeant, 1 part-time accreditation manager instead of full-time, and 1 K-9, 7 new vehicles, uniforms, equipment, et cetera, just to summarize. Community development increased $98,661. That's for the sidewalk gap design and requisition of right-of-way acquisition, Dogwood Drive drainage study, Holly Creek roadway study, and you'll hear more about those. For a delta bottom line on page 16, bottom right corner, you see $819,338. You have any questions? If not, I'm going to ask Mr. Lee Thames to come up and present the rest of our recommended budget.
Hang on just a second, Mike.
Yes.
Commissioner Wade,
The large decrease in recreation, is that due to the open base manager's position?
We bought 2 boats this past year that won't recur. Lake Rogers Park bathroom renovations that we're doing. Christmas tree purchase, $20,000. Master plan, $75,000 that we're working on now.
And
That's not recurring, so that's why that dropped.
and the large public works drop.
The drop is cutting a 1 man and 1 truck that Mr. Edwards asked for. And he's here tonight if you have questions about that reduction. Any questions for Steve? I can get him up.
Steve?
Come to the microphone, please, Steve.
Good evening. Steve Edwards, Public Works Director. Thank you for letting me speak. I went to Mr. Turner when I saw this immediately. We had a discussion. I understand the position he's in, and I understand where we're at. It's just my job to say, since I've been here, we're the same size staff that we have been since 2019. I started in January. We still have the same size. And we've added a lot of things since I've been here. The community center, just all the features and things that we've been adding for the residents to enjoy as well as visitors, like the sidewalk, Cross City Trail. And I just need another person. Primarily, 50% of it will be stormwater work, ditches. We're just behind in stormwater work, and we're pretty much putting fires out right now. When someone acts up or there's a bad issue, we'll respond, but we're not doing anything proactively. And I was going to replace the 2010 vehicle with 130,000 miles with a new truck, but that's the only, and I understand the position. That's not, I don't disagree with the manager at all or the finance director of their recommendations. I mean, I'm just going to tell my side of the story, what I requested. That's all I can do.
So it's safe to say, Steve, that you need a person and a truck.
Yes.
That's what I needed to hear. Thank you.
Commissioner Wilkins.
2 questions. How much of the 109 would that person be? And I have a question for the chief.
You recall right on top of your head, I think the vehicle was like 40.
The vehicle was roughly 40,000, and the position, based off of the, pay class, the pay grade, that position was roughly with benefits and everything involved, was roughly around $60,000.
I have 60 and 48,000 for the vehicle.
Thank you. Could I ask the chief?
Yeah, I want you to finish your questions.
I'm good. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Commissioner.
So
Just my thoughts is that we are planning for growth in the community for the police department. Steve has had the same personnel for many, many years. I believe the Public Works Department, deserves another person in a truck to keep, they can't keep up with what they have now. So my opinion is, I think we should honor the person in the truck. Just my thoughts.
Mayor Pro Tem. I agree, I mean, we're doing more than ever, and asked to do more than ever. And I just want to make sure you're not just doing this, and you're doing this over the heart. And you're really putting yourself a little bit behind the eight ball.
Thank you.
Mr. Wilkins.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, thank you.
Any questions before Mr. Payne comes up for myself?
Chief, Chief.
Mr. Wilkins.
Chief, just a question to educate me. I know our cars are on the road minimum 12 hours a day, running every day. You said we're adding 4 plus 1 plus 1. Why 7 cars? Just help me out on that.
So it should be, the new positions, you would need 5 of those for new people, and then 2 replacements to replace some of our older vehicles that we're spending a lot of my budget trying to keep those vehicles.
Gotcha. Just one clarification. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions for Steve?
We surplus 2 of the ones that we have. So we have 2 Chargers still sitting out back. One of them works. Do I feel 100% comfortable putting somebody in it? Honestly, no. The other one, I just feel like it's not worth the city's money to keep putting, it's not worth, to spend citizens' money to keep trying to repair that car to keep it on their road.
So if we take those 2 and surplus them out, do you have at least 1 reserve vehicle in case one goes down?
No.
Aside from the one that belongs to Officer Elliott?
Right. No. So that's why we keep at least one of those in there, and Elliott's gone, military leave for probably 12 months or so we can use his vehicle as a spare if we need it.
So you'll need cars for your police officers and the detective sergeant?
Yes.
So that's 5 cars right there. So
Right.
it doesn't give you an extra.
Right.
So you just
Well, we're trying to make it work.
the only other cars you have in the summer?
We're trying to make it work, yes.
Mr. White.
Chief, I think that, we're looking at replacing, maybe is the pickup truck, are we still gonna use the pickup truck for now?
I would like to replace the pickup truck.
And
then the Fusion.
the Fusion?
Yes.
How many vehicles that we have left that are solely the city's responsibility and not leased?
I think with replacing those 2, we would still have the Holly car, which is no big deal because that's just school. One off the top of my head, maybe 2. And then
This would put us more in line with our
Yes, sir.
lease program.
Yes, sir.
They take care of a lot of the maintenance.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I mean, because really, when we budget it with this many vehicles, you really kind of plan on just oil changes and tire rotations, but within the last 2 years with the truck, we had to replace the engine and the cars. It's just constantly something that you're trying to do to keep those.
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Sure.
But have you been able to see a, profit and loss, I guess you could say, money back in the budget with the lease program compared to coming out with the?
Yes, I think it's a huge saving, especially, and we'll start to see that as we sell those cars back and we start rotating them out, with next year will be.
Oh, they have a strict maintenance plan, correct, where you have to take them, okay.
So with the maintenance plan, do they just do, is it part of the lease agreement that they maintain the cars, or do we have to
No, we maintain.
pay for that?
We maintain the cars, and that's our choice to do that because we've done it, and it also keeps us putting money back into, locally into our businesses. As opposed
Okay, so they dictate when we do the maintenance and we use our own people?
So our preventative maintenance, oil changes of those are dedicated miles, just like your personal.
Right.
I mean, yeah, so we keep those up and we keep records of those and we have it for every single car, so when we sell them, we can provide the
the leased cars, do they reimburse us who pays for that maintenance? Is that,
On our car, on the lease car, yeah, we pay for that maintenance, so that comes out of my vehicle budget.
so, what's the benefit to the lease agreement as far as maintenance?
Like if,
Explain that
I'm
to me.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
More or less, if something mechanical was to go wrong with the car, the lease company's responsible for the mechanical structure and instead of preventative preventative maintenance like oil and lubricants and oil tires and stuff like that, we're responsible for like major issues with engine, transmission, that kind of stuff. The lease company's responsible for fixing the big budget items.
Yes.
Like, the Dodge pickup truck, the school resource officer uses, I believe you had to do something, was it transmission or engine? Engine. So that came out of his budget for a new engine, and if it was a leased truck, it would have went back to the leasing company, and they would either put a new engine in it or give us another vehicle.
Good evening, Mayor, Board. So pretty much the city manager pretty much covered the changes you see for his recommendations towards the department's request. This next slide here, no changes from the last presentation. These are the organization requests. One pointing out the new addition that was added in this fiscal year for Crime Stoppers, $500 there. And all of the agency requests are fully funded in the budget as of current. So just a quick look at where the estimated revenues and expenditures are at the moment. At the last work session, we briefly discussed the Avalon taxes. So I just want to give you the tax base, because from the last meeting, I requested an update on what the tax base would be after she has made, more listings have came in, she made those adjustments. So at the previous meeting, at that time, the tax base was $650,723,352. Based off the last report that I received from the tax office, the current tax base is $653,186,042, so roughly $3 million increase there. Expenditures, as the city manager pointed out, total requested expenditures after the cuts that were made, we're at $7,540,078. So we're still at a $1.5 million deficit between revenues and expenditures. And that's $819,338 more than the FY25 budget compared to what current expenditures are at the moment.
Last year was 42, and they asked for an increase from the contractors that take care of the more than frequency of the revenue. That is what I also want to do, is get position, which is going to be pretty much sensitive.
It's probably,
Very labor intensive, spending more hours on the school.
So when we put public works back, the actual deficit will be 1.660.
Correct.
Notice I said when we put it back.
Yes, sir. So this. So it's based off the tax base. So our funding to them is 6 cent per $100 valuation of our tax base. So at the time, our tax base that was presented to us was slightly lower than last year at the time. So that was the calculation for their 6 cent allocation. So if you look here, the amount you've seen from the last time is, it went up only $1,000 roughly due to the increase. Right.
If the 2025 budget began $446,000, and this year, it's $440,000. I'm trying to figure out where $6,000 comes from, because we didn't list any housing, tax rates went up, valuations went up. It shouldn't go down.
Based off of what I've seen from the report she sent me, a lot of it is due to exemptions in the current year. I have to have a full conversation with her to see what new exemptions there are in the year. And just, and each year, and just since I've been in this position, your tax base has never been the same each year. Some years you see that it slightly goes down a little bit, some years you see that it goes up. So it's just one of those things, when new properties come in, it's depending on how they listen. I'm not a tax expert, so I have a more in-depth conversation with Jenny, the tax assessor for the county, and she can give me further insight on those additional exemptions that we have seen in the report she sent.
Well, it's just that I know that houses have been built in Creedmoor this year, and they have a tax value, and I'm not seeing it represented when it goes down.
Yeah, I understand. So I told her that I will be requesting a report from her every month.
Okay.
So at this next report that I see her, which kind of will give me my final number where I can lock down.
Unless we overpaid them last year.
I have to see how they keyed in things into their system.
Yeah.
Which I'm not privileged to see. I just get the information directly from her.
Okay.
Like I said, I will question those, because I did point that out to her when she sent that first report, that amount that was listed for exemptions was rather alarming, because it was more than the previous fiscal year. Like I said, I will touch bases with her once I receive this next report.
Did the city's ad valorem taxes as a whole from the code go down?
From last year to this current year? Yes.
Okay, that makes sense then.
Yes, the total tax base.
Okay, went down.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir. All right, so here just briefly points out some key department requests, and the city manager kind of briefly spoke on those things that we kind of made changes and additions that were added. First items that he pointed out was it went from 8 new personnel to 6 new personnel in the police department, 4 police officers, 1 detective sergeant. The accreditation manager went to a part-time position, and the additional K-9 is still included in the budget request. The request for 7 new vehicles with 2 replacement vehicles went down to 5 vehicles requested, and that's associated with the 5 positions. And the 2 replacement vehicles are still included. And additional cost that goes along with those positions and the cars were reflected in the police department's budget as well. Public Works, city manager briefly spoke on it, that the 1 personnel and vehicle replacement was taken out of the budget. In community development, 1 item was added that was included in the CIP, was a software upgrade for his department. Recreation, some CIP items were included. The 3 items were the community center, the upper and lower lot filling and the striping. totaling $14,800. A dumpster pad at the community center to do away with the trash corral that's currently there now. And landscaping at Harris Park for $7,000. And also included in this is a 4% COLA, totaling roughly $105,837 impact to the budget. Any questions there? It just showed changes. Yeah, I just used the color to show some changes where, yeah. Yes, sir.
So the, police department officers, from the math that I'm doing, comes out to $76,012 each. But the starting, mid-range, and maximum range, I think maximum on our salary sliding scale is 50,000, so the other 26,000?
Different, insurance, tax. Benefits that goes along with that position.
They're included, okay.
Mr. White?
Yes, sir. Since this is, basically discussion for us, I want to open it up to my fellow commissioners. I think with the addition of the Public Works personnel position and vehicle, me personally, I'm okay with 4 police officers and the additional K-9 to put on the opposite rotation. So there's one on each rotation of the A, B, C, D squads. That's my personal thoughts, and hold off at this time on the detective position and the accreditation manager. So that would be the 4 police officers, the 1 additional K-9, the replacement of vehicles and equipment that's needed, and the addition of the Public Works position and the Public Works vehicle added back into the budget. I think with the addition of the Public Works position and vehicle, that would replace basically that detective sergeant and accreditation manager pay range. So you're just basically swapping for that position.
Would that go down to 4 vehicles then instead?
That would go down to 4 vehicles
Instead of 5.
and 2 replacement vehicles.
I agree.
Mr. Wilkins?
I concur with that, with the exception, I think the chief does need the part-time accreditation manager. Take the weight of that paperwork off his shoulders. So I agree with what you said with one addition.
Chief?
Sorry, Colin.
I didn't mean to make you cry, I'm sorry.
And Mike, one of you can answer this. Accreditation, is that something we're required to do?
No, sir.
So if we don't do it this year, but maybe next year or something?
So we started the process in February of last year, and it's a 2-year process. So the process, we will be up for the auditors and the people to come here this upcoming February. And the thinking is, with the part-time person, there's a guy that we know, and he's an expert in accreditation already. Like, he's done it, he sits on the boards, things like that. So we're trying to maybe get him to make it easier on us, and then maybe even, as he gets things going and set up in a year or two, maybe just phasing that position out and, working it into.
So it's not required?
No, sir, it's not required.
I think we're gonna be checked on.
Yes, sir, absolutely. And it goes, it's a step, as we do the risk review, and that decreases the city's liability, this is an additional step in, further above the risk.
Okay. Mr. White?
Chief, is this position, since you're saying it would be something that would be for short term, is this something that we can maybe do as a contractor?
I don't think, I've never done that, but if it's short term, then.
As a consultant contractor?
Sure, it is.
Well, that's a good thought.
I think that might be a better route instead of having the salary and benefits, and then you coming along later and saying, oh, hey, he just wanted to help us get this.
Yeah.
I want to get rid of this position now that he wants to go back to playing golf.
I understand, and I think that's just with our current part-time rate, with just the hours, I think that's where that number's coming.
Okay.
And then we're not responsible for the retirement, part-time, then we're not responsible for the retirement for seniors. The only thing that come out of that is just the, part-time employees.
And the gentleman we have in mind is 30-year retired. He did this for Durham County Sheriff's Department for many years, so he's an expert at what he's doing, and he's willing to come and help us out part-time. I might give you his name, but I won't do that.
I know who you're talking about.
Will this end up at some point saving us money?
Yes, in liability, yes, it does, along with the risk review, and I don't know if you could speak to that. As far as, like risk review, us getting that award and the accreditation, it ultimately reduces the liability to the city, like our liability cost should go down because we are showing that we are in best practice.
So it's an investment, not just.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. Kaczynski.
So, this is something you started since you got here because it was something that you wanted to do? Okay, I just wanted to, that Chief King hadn't started this and then you had to follow.
We've talked about it for years and we've talked about it. And again, along with all the other issues and things we go along with, it's just making sure that your police department is the absolute best it could be.
And we're saying that the liability risk will drop, but we're not absolutely positive that insurance rates are gonna drop being accredited.
I will get you numbers on that, because I know through the league, and this is through the state, so I know the NCLM, the risk review, that is through the league, and so that is supposed to save us a percentage on our overall insurance. What that percentage is, I will have to ask.
Are there any grants for this position?
I'm sure that yes, and they're very competitive, just like
Everything else?
yes.
Mr. Wilkins.
I'm okay whether it's contracted or part-time, but the point I want to make is we need the position and we should not remove that from the budget.
Any other, Mr. Way?
I'm fine with that, sir.
Mr. Kaczynski.
I just remember, we're getting a new house. We're getting a new house. We can't shoot for everything in 1 year.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to, that's why, to me, it's important that Steve gets what he needs.
Sure.
So between you and Mike, you're clear.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Way.
I think I have what everybody was saying, and they can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe we're okay with the 4 new police officer positions. We're okay with the part-time accreditation manager. We're okay with the additional K-9, the replacement vehicles, and the new vehicles for the officers that are needed.
4.
Yes. For the 4 new police officers and the equipment, and the addition of the public works member and vehicle for Steve. And at this time, we're gonna hold off on the detective position, the detective sergeant position. I believe that is a consensus of what myself and the commissioners lost you on.
That's what I'm looking for. We will vote on all this at a time. So we're clear on all that. Okay.
Yes, sir.
You have a question?
Those trees, I don't know, I'm not sure exactly where that number came from, but I know the trees and shrubs and those kind of things are mulch, it's awesome. I don't know, if you want to drive down, or whatever, we'll go, we work with what you do. We haven't done that, we haven't done anything down here for a long time. It's money, it's not here.
All right, so stormwater, no additions and changes were made there. But this number will slightly change us a little bit once we add back the public works positions because a portion of their salary is funded by stormwater, so that would change just a little bit. So currently, the revenues is $445,539. Expenditures the same, and the three departments broken out in stormwater are reflected there. Admin and planning, $289,000. Repairs and improvements, $130,000. And service payments, $25,500.
Real quick.
Yes, sir.
All right, is everything that were the admin repair service, is that remaining the same as last year, or is some of it being shifted lower in one and raised in another one? You see what I'm asking?
Yeah, so some numbers are slightly, different.
Okay. So there will be some adjustment in each department, it just works out to
Right,
be the same.
right. I know for the service payments stay the same because those payments are the same every year. But in the stormwater, there's no, capital items listed in stormwater at the moment. So included in your repairs and improvements, there are no big projects planned for the next year. But of course, some might come along in the next year where, we will possibly do a budget amendment at the time when the project comes, available.
Okay. Commissioner Kuczynski.
Isn't the Dogwood Whitehall project included in that repair and improvement?
We don't know the final number of what that's gonna be. I know.
The design?
Yeah,
You got the
Paul
design
will be
cost.
presenting later on regarding that, task order for that project. So once he presents the number with that, and this would be something new. So a budget amendment will have to be done
Okay.
regardless in this fiscal year for the first design work and study to be done, then possible, whatever the board decides to do for us construction or whatever needs to be done, amendment would be done at that time as well.
So I think that last year we increased the stormwater fees.
Yes.
And since Public Works does do the stormwater, it's another reason why we should allow the extra person in the truck, just my opinion.
Next we have, power bill, no changes there. Power bill revenues, $187,000, expenditures, $200,909. Only appropriating $13,909 of fund balance, power bill fund balance. And two capital projects listed in there is the resurfacing of Douglas Drive and Mack Street. Any questions for power bill? All right, lastly, just some questions possibly to be answered or, things that are still lying out there that we are still waiting on. The increases to property and casualty is still unknown. That number comes late in the year, normally after we have adopted the budget. The retirement rate, for the city of Creedmoor, based off the last thing I heard, that number we should receive what our retirement rate contribution would be here in the next week or two for, Creedmoor. So at the next meeting, you will see what that percentage, will affect the budget. As I stated earlier, the agencies, the organizational funding requests are fully funded in the budget. Items here listed are items that, were discussed but not funded in the budget. New Year's Eve event, the Harris Park restrooms, the solutions there was for the rental units, per event, per the request. And at the budget retreat, the Scott Air Packs were discussed. They're currently not funded in this next fiscal year's budget. Just for your FYI, when we began to discuss and talk about tax rate, 1 cent generates $65,000 of Avalon taxes. So I just want to let you all know that number so you can have it in the back of your mind when we're starting to discuss possible tax increase.
Mr. Wilkins.
Mr. City Manager, we're gonna make sure in Harris Park that we are gonna have rental units every time they have a event.
Yes, sir. We've had one request, I believe, in 10 years. It's a community park. We looked at the cost of building a facility, which is, pretty significant, $375 a square foot, $100,000. We still don't have wastewater allocation down there, so what we're budgeting for is two porta-johns, male, female, with a hand washing station for it. When we get a request to reserve it, we'll put those services in there, and there's a monthly cost to put them in there, $315.
Just want to make sure it was on record. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions?
We can pull the New Year's Eve event. There's been a lot of discussion about it, and since we are tight on the budget, I feel that we won't do that. We'll just stay with the events that we have.
Any other questions for Lee? City manager, do you have anything on this?
No, sir, I think we're clear on what the board wants at this time, and we'll bring those back at your next work session.
Okay, so back on, I put 2025, I should have put 2015. But back in 2015, the board approved a capital project ordinance that was aimed around economic development for the possibility of a major business coming into the city and using some funds to help connect water and sewer to that business. So in that project ordinance, $500,000 of general fund balance was allocated to, well, not even the general fund balance, because I believe the funds came from the sale of the water and sewer infrastructure to Seguasa. But $500,000 was allocated to a water economic development project, and $500,000 was allocated to a sewer fund, so totaling $1 million. So there has been no activity in those funds since the creation of those two funds. Only one expenditure came out of there for the, help me if I'm wrong, for the demolition of the water treatment. Right, that was the only expenditure that came out during that time. So tonight I'm bringing before you to close that project ordinance that was created and to move those funds back to the general fund balance. That's $1 million sitting out there that's just drawing interest that can be used for capital projects in the city, and we can use it at will instead of it just sitting there. I know we are in the process of the police department construction. So that was one of the reasons it really came to my attention to bring this before you all for discussion and seeing, and if at you all's direction, if you all are agreeing with it, at the next meeting I will bring the closing ordinance for that capital project fund to close out and to move those funds back to the general fund.
All right, so Mr. Albright.
So, how did you know that they were there, like, the whole time you've been here? Oh, you did know that they were there? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was one
You were just sitting on them, you were just holding them tight.
I was waiting on the right time.
Just spring it on us.
Yeah, that was one of the things me and Carla talked about when I first came aboard.
Okay.
She made me aware of that fund. So each month I make entries to those funds for the interest that are being earned from those funds. So I'm well aware that the funds are there. I was just trying to find the right time to bring it before you all to present.
Rainy day funds are good, though, to not know that they're there, for us to not know that they're there. But thank you.
He was sticking those away for the Lee Thames retirement fund.
Oh, no.
For the grass mowing.
Has nothing to do with his evaluation being due next month.
Oh, no.
Mr. Wilkins.
So Lee, correct me if I'm wrong, by closing this and putting it in the general fund, we then can take $1 million to reduce the deficit of this year's budget, is that correct? It's coming out of the general fund?
It wouldn't reduce the impact of the budget. It will go into our fund balance with it and just increase our general fund balance.
Okay.
But your board, the The budget,
But once it's increased, you can borrow $1 million from it, correct?
yeah, you're able to use whatever.
Right, that's my point. Okay.
General fund
So
purpose.
we can take that, not that $1 million, $1 million, I should have said, to reduce the deficit.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kachensky.
Lee, do you happen to know the actual amount of this account, including the interest?
From the last time I looked at it, it was just a little over $1 million, so it was like $1,010,000 at the time that I looked at it.
That's all we got on this money all these years?
Yeah, because you got to think
10 years?
about it. Some 200,000 of it was used
Okay.
a couple years back for the demolition.
Going back
So those funds, it accrued back into it, the account.
Mr. White. Anybody else? Mayor.
The motion is in order, if it's not like a motion, back into the general fund.
Okay, basically, the motion we're looking for is to approve the closing of the Water Economic Development Project and the Sewer Economic Development Project, which is the capital project ordinance 2014-0-07, and moving all remaining funds to the general fund. That's your motion?
And just one of the actual closing ordinance would be at your next.
Yes.
Right.
Just give me direction, yes, to move forward.
All right. Motion is made by the Mayor Pro Tem. Any further discussion? Not hearing any, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Thank you all. I believe I have the next one as well.
Monthly finance.
All right, so, tonight I bring before you the March 31st, summer report. Same format as always, general fund revenues. I always like to point out Avalon taxes. We're at 95% collected for the year. So bringing the total, revenues collected to date at 64%. General fund expenditures, we're at 73% expensed. Stormwater fund revenues, of actual stormwater collections, we have exceeded the estimated collection amount, so we're at 115% collected. Stormwater fund expenditures, 51% expensed. Power bill fund revenues of actual power bill revenue that we receive from the state, 105%, including interest earned on those power bill funds. Power bill fund expenditures, we're at 12% expensed. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Any questions? Not hearing any, I think we're good to go ahead.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
We move on to item 5, staff on call engineering services update. Mr. Barclay.
Is this gonna work for me tonight? Let's check. You have to open the...
You're making me dizzy.
I'm not pushing it. There it is. That looks familiar. Okay. All right, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. I'm Carl Barkley, your city engineer. And several times over the last couple of months, I've mentioned the on-call engineering contract to you. It's a new program for procuring professional services. And work assigned under this contract is referred to as a task order, or TO. So tonight is the first time that I'm presenting to you some TOs that have been assigned to some projects here. So the purpose of tonight's presentation is to inform you which projects have been scoped with the firms, the TO proposals that we have received from the firms, and answer any questions that you have. The request for approval for these will be on May 6th. So you'll have 2 weeks to think about it, discuss, or ask additional questions. So So the first project, the Dogwood Drive and Whitehall Drive Drainage Area Study. That was assigned to Weatherall Engineering. The Main Street Public Parking Lot went to RK&K. Lake Rogers Dam, the structural integrity of the dam, inundation study, emergency action plan, went to RK&K, and they'll be assigning it to their subconsultant, Schnabel Engineering. And then sidewalk gaps, there's 4 priority segments that went to Summit Engineering. So we received task order proposals for all of them except for the Lake Rogers Dam. RK&K told us that Schnabel was quite busy right now in Western Carolina, still Hurricane Helene recovery. So if we don't have an emergency, we said that's fine. As luck would have it, we have a meeting tomorrow with them, a call to finish scoping the dam with them. So we should have a proposal from them in the next couple of weeks. So after we scope the project with the firm, they'll submit a task order proposal, basically what they think we're asking for, and it'll show what it takes to provide that. So there's always a little bit of negotiation back and forth to make sure we're on the same sheet of music. So we try to revise these proposals to economize them a little bit. If we don't need 3 conceptual drawings, just provide us the one that you recommend and, tell us why. Make sure the scope is right size, and then clarity. It's always important that we're clear on what we're asking for, what we're paying for, so if something comes up later, we know that it's extra because we were clear in the beginning. So just to remind the board that the project needs for the drainage area study. There are several issues that have become apparent on Dogwood Drive. The drainage path after a storm, localized flooding, the condition of the stormwater system, the pipes, the drainage structures are old, and then the original design. As Steve Edwards and I were looking at the design, it might have made sense when it was built many, many years ago, but as we're looking at it, we just had questions about, well, why does it go this way? Why is this here? Just we had questions. Then there's issues on Whitehall, including the drainage path or the volume of water along certain drainage paths, backwater after storms, and then of course any changes made upstream in Dogwood has the potential to have effects downstream in Whitehall. We don't want to create additional problems, certainly. So the project area was defined as being all the properties on both roads, Whitehall and Dogwood. And in hindsight, maybe I should have said problem area. That's the area we want them to look for problems and resolve problems, because the project area really could extend much further downstream, because we want to make sure, again, no new problems are created. So whenever if a change is made, what effect will it have downstream? So they'll follow it as far downstream as their effects, as far down as the changes could affect things. Now, there's several unusual aspects within the project limits. The city owns the right-of-way for 2 paper streets off Dogwood. Those could be to our advantage. If the firm recommends we use them for drainage, we don't have to acquire an easement. We already have a 40-foot right-of-way. And there are also several easements in the project area. Whitehall HOA has a permanent drainage easement that lines up with one of those paper streets. Seguasa has a sewer easement, and the original subdivision plat for Whitehall shows a backwater easement in front of some of the parcels, like the developer knew that water was going to be slow to drain from that area. So the task order proposal, your agenda package includes the entire proposal from the firm. So if you want to see in detail all the different steps they're proposing, how much time it takes for each step, that's in there. But the highlights include data collection and assessment of existing conditions. They'll use GIS to delineate the drainage area. Where's the water come from that drains into this problem area? They'll review historical aerial imagery to identify land use changes. When things seem fine for a long time and all of a sudden they're not fine, a lot of times it's because something changed. So this is a way of clearly seeing what changed, with trees cleared, buildings constructed. Then they'll use a variety of software to model storm discharges and perform the flow analysis. And they'll use that to assess the issues and recommend potential improvements for the area. Now, we made it clear to them that we would like them to present that in a phased approach. We may choose to do some improvements now, some later, and it's absolutely critical that those are done in the right order. Do them in the wrong order, you just make more problems. So that's why we ask for a phased approach on that. So the deliverables from Weatherall Engineering will be a technical memorandum report, which will have the hydraulic analysis that was used to develop the report. Basically, all the numbers behind it, and then what that means, what they recommend we do, the problems they see, the path forward that's in our hands. They're not constructing anything, it's just telling us what the problem is and the different steps for fixing it. So the total for this task order is, just under $29,000. Now, I cannot tell you what they're going to propose, and I can't tell you what that is going to cost either, but aside from that, are there any questions about this particular, task order?
Any questions to that, Mr. White? Any questions?
Carl, from your vantage point as our engineer, I know that when some building went on Dogwood Drive, this is when my problem started down the Whitehall side. Do you foresee that we change our city ordinance to avoid having problems like this going forward? Do you see any changes we could make now that would help going forward?
I don't think I'm familiar enough with all the ordinances. I think I'd defer to my boss on that one. But it's certainly something to, when we see the report and find out what they say the cause is, the reasons for it, then certainly that is a discussion point to have. Is there something that we can do in the future to prevent that from happening?
Well, I know that the last house on the end of Dogwood, when it got built, that is when the diversion of the water came over to Whitehall Drive. So I know that I had asked Mr. Frangos at the time, do we have an ordinance that when you build, you have to make sure the water doesn't flood out somebody else's property, and we didn't have one at the time. So I'm just hoping that we can possibly do something to make sure that this doesn't happen and it falls back on the city again.
Sure. When we scoped it, we told them about that house and then the problems that appeared afterwards. So they should focus in on that and let us know. And if there is something that can be changed in the ordinance, absolutely we need to do that.
And the dam project, you are going to go down with them when they take a look at the dam this time? Because I know that the problems with the dam, the state has come in and looked at it without any of our people being there. So I just would like to have a city employee's view of what they're seeing so that we could understand the problem a little better.
There'll be a lot of conversation on that, I'm sure.
Okay.
That's important. But
The engineering cost, is that for water fund?
is that correct on this one?
Yes, Any other questions?
Okay, thank you. Moving right along then. Main Street Public Parking Lot. So originally, I was planning on having this be an in-house design for a paving contractor. Several of them advertised that service on their website, but after noting the number of complexities, I decided maybe I should contact a paving contractor, and he didn't even want to hear the details. He was emphatic, you need to have a complete design performed and then advertise for construction services only. It just wouldn't be a fair field for competitive bids, not knowing or if they had flexibility of what they could do. And it made sense after he explained it to me. So the complexities include the proximity to two old buildings. We don't want to damage any foundations by having compaction equipment too close. There's numerous tie-in points. Obviously, there's Main Street and Chief Street. There's a sidewalk. There's concrete steps on one building. There's metal stairs and wooden deck on another building. There's topography concerns. To meet ADA requirements, the pedestrian path is maximum 5% slope, but the parking stall is 2% slope. So there's a lot of things there that have to be done just right. But the thing that concerned me the most was the Main Street entrance regarding elevation and storm drainage. The lower you make the entrance, the easier it is to meet the ADA requirements of the parking lot. But the last thing we want to do is have storm runoff from Main Street get onto the sidewalk and cause more problems in front of the Main Street businesses. And that's when the proverbial light bulb went off. Now, we've all heard of scope creep. Scope creep is generally a bad thing. Scope change is something different. Scope change is an official change in project goals with an acknowledgement of the effect on budget and schedule. It didn't take long to realize it just makes sense to change the scope of this project to address the long-standing issue with the sidewalk in front of 206 to 210 Main Street. After a storm, the water stands there, and the other day, I went out and took a picture of it, and it was a mess, and, when it's less than freezing outside, now you have an ice skating rink out there. I don't know how long it's been going on, but I'm told it's been a concern of the business owners for quite some time. So, that has been included in this project. Again, right now, if you were to turn into that parking lot, you go up a concrete curb to get to the sidewalk elevation. If that curb didn't exist and it went from the asphalt down to the parking lot to make it easier to make the ADA grade, then water could leave the asphalt of the road and get onto the sidewalk. I'm saying it can be on the road, on Main Street. If somebody wasn't properly designing this, they could make the situation worse, is my point. Right. Right. The water that hits Main Street goes into the catch basin, does not get on the sidewalk. If that entrance was changed to the parking lot and it was lowered, the sidewalk was lowered by about a foot, then the problem would be worse. Water could get on it. Right. Maybe I shouldn't have said that at all. It was a hypothetical. We don't want to screw this up. We don't want to make it worse. Okay. Sorry about that. So the agenda, again, includes the entire task order proposal, if you want to see all the steps that they have to go through for this. But the highlights include a preliminary design, which would be a schematic layout with the sidewalk elevations, but then address stakeholder comments. And I'm sure there will be comments from the three stakeholders, the two property owners and the city. After we all come to an agreement on what this parking lot is going to look like, then they have to prepare a complete set of design plans, which would be the site plans, grading, landscape, erosion control, pedestrian management, pavement marking, signing, lighting, the detail sheets, general notes, etc. There's a lot of components to having a complete set of plans. And then they'll also prepare the complete bid package, which includes the plans, specifications, estimate, general conditions, construction contract, and instruction to bidders. They'll also acquire the NCDOT encroachment agreement because about half that sidewalk is in DOT right-of-way for NC 50. So the entrance and anything that they do to fix the standing water in front of the businesses, that'll be within the right-of-way. And then after the project is under construction, this task order includes bidding and construction support, because questions always come up during construction, so they are there to continue their support. So the deliverables from RK&K will be the complete bid package for the construction of the parking lot, and their design will include the improvements to the sidewalk drainage issue. And the total for this task order is $43,916. Are there any questions about this task order?
Any questions?
So this is the 28,000 for the first one, plus this 43 leak. This is not worked into a budget, is it in the CIP plan?
This budget is currently, there are funds budgeted in the budget this current.
So it's not gonna be extra?
The only one that needs a budget is the person he just presented.
It's 28,000. Thank you, Carl.
Carl, and looking at the detail from RK&K, after tonight, it looks like if everything goes through, this project could be completed by October. Is that correct?
I don't have that in front of me, but if that's what their schedule says, then that's when they would be submitting their final plans.
Yeah, their estimated schedules when I was looking at it.
So that's when the final.
Their estimated schedule, submit concept plans to the city by May the 9th and go through the other different things, and then construction begins August 29th roughly if everything falls into place.
They have construction starting in August?
Oh, yeah, construction August 29th and completed by October the 24th.
That would be wonderful. Don't want to drag it.
That would be just in time for Main Street trick-or-treating.
Fingers crossed.
So, that would be nice.
Any other questions?
All right. Thank you. Moving right along then, the next one is our sidewalk segments. There have been 12 sidewalk gaps identified citywide, and the board has previously selected 4 priority segments. Segment 7 is on Main Street, number 8 is on Northside Road, 9 is East Lion Street, 10 is on Peachtree Street. Now, this task order will be the first of several phases for these 4 segments. And the reason we're chopping it up into phases, it allows for flexibility and changes as information is gathered. So again, the full task order proposal is in your agenda package. And this phase one is essentially a feasibility study and report. The firm will gather available GIS, aerial, planimetric, topographic, utility information in these four areas, do environmental screening to determine if there are any environmental impacts, and they'll develop a schematic design providing the rationale. I want them to, go ahead and pick a side, pick a route, but then explain to us why they chose a particular side of the road, and then any other design element. Why do they choose a boardwalk versus a retaining wall, or vice versa? And then a preliminary cost estimate, what do they estimate it will cost for each one of these segments? And then evaluate the segments for MPO, state, or federal funding. It's always good if we can get a partner on board to help fund the construction of these. And the deliverables from Summit Engineering, for each segment, they'll give us a schematic design on aerial mapping, and then they'll depict the notable features and challenges of each of these segments, because we told them there's probably a reason why they haven't been built yet. If it was easy, we'd already have them. So what are the challenges of them? And then a summary report including all the information that they've gathered, the decisions that still need to be made for those sections, any recommendations they have, opinions, etc. Anything that they gather on those segments, collect it into that report. Now, we certainly hope there's no fatal flaw with any one of these segments, but if there is, this is the time to identify that and say, you know what, it's just not going to happen right now. Because if we just did one task order to do the whole thing, well, then they turn in a project that's, astronomical to build, or just some other negative with it. So that's why we're doing this in pieces, to make sure we're going down the right path. So the total for this phase is $39,930. Are there any questions about this task order?
Lee, this one's not in, or this one is in?
This is in policy response, and this current system.
All right. So in conclusion, there'll be a request for approval at the next meeting, May 6th. And some budget amendments are required, but Lee's on board with everything in place for the next meeting. So I'd ask you to please inform the city manager if you have any additional questions or requests for information in the next couple of weeks.
Mr. Mayor, I know it's going to be brought forth for approval on May the 6th, but if I may, I would like to get consensus for the board so Carl can move ahead and notify these organizations that we want to proceed with this.
I'm really good with that.
Or we have a consensus to move ahead.
Okay.
And get started, and then we'll formally do it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate that.
Thank y'all.
All right, let's see. Yes, this is the, City Hall solar array, that's the next one.
Yep. All right, so solar energy system for City Hall. Tonight's presentation, the purpose is to inform the board of the second proposal that I received and the significant difference between this one and the first proposal. I received this about half a day before the agenda information was required, so I apologize for the lack of detail in this presentation. In 2 weeks, May 6th, I'll have more detailed comparison and request for selection at that time. So NC Solar now is the company who provided the second proposal. And just like the other companies, they were provided with the roof size, orientation, slope, gave them some pictures, provided them with 2 years of energy usage, detailed billing information, et cetera. And they came back with a proposal of 80 solar panels generating 47.2 kilowatts, base cost $87,000. You probably don't remember all the numbers, but you probably remember that's less than what the previous one was. Assuming we still get the same tax credit of 30%, that knocks $26,000 off down to $61,000, and it was pointed out there's a possible another 10% that may be approved, go down to 55. Now your agenda package includes the entire proposal, And if you look at the schematic in there, you'll see that the layout does not cover the entire roof. You'll also notice that the return on investment is listed as 6 years, and that needs to be verified because some of the tax savings, I don't know that it applies to municipal governments, so I wouldn't take that as the gospel. But it is challenging to compare the two because they're quite different. Different information is presented, and the overall, format is different. But there is one significant takeaway, and that is the NC Solar Now proposal is significantly smaller. Now, what does that mean? Well, in the previous presentation, I explained that any unused power, if we can't use it right when it's generated by the solar panels, it goes back on the grid, and we get 40% credit for it. So it's better if you can use it. So if you're generating too much, if there's waste, excess, you're only getting 40% for it. So I think that's why they lean toward the smaller side. There's different ways of explaining it. Higher percent of energy is consumed on site with a smaller system. Or you could say a lower percent of energy is put back on the grid at only 40% credit. So this leads to a faster return on investment. More of the energy that is generated is full value versus only 40% value. However, less energy is generated. Once it's paid for, each year you're only generating a smaller amount because you have a smaller system. So there is no perfect size. It's a judgment call. I'm sure different companies have different theories or different approaches to this. But what really caught my attention was this proposal, their system generates 2/3 the energy of the first proposal at just over half the cost. So forget about payback time or all the other details. You're getting 2/3 of the value for half the price. That seems pretty good. Many assumptions are involved with both companies putting together this proposal of, how much it would generate and payback time. But I think a lot of it also depends on, what are the goals of the customer? Is the goal to produce as much green energy as possible, even if it's to Duke's advantage, or is the goal to right-size the system for the energy demands of the building that's going on? And I assume that's the direction that we're leaning, but, different customers have different goals in mind. I do want to have a chance to go through and ask NC Solar Now several questions that I've come up with and make sure I fully understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, and then give the board a detailed comparison between the two proposals, and then ask you May 6th, which one to go with, if either of them. So do you have any questions that I should add to my list of questions?
So Carl, if I'm looking at your numbers, it takes 6 years to get a return on investment of about $9,200 a year. We'd have to lay out $55,000. Am I reading that correctly?
They're claiming 6 years. I don't have confidence in that. Maybe it's 8 years.
So it'd be even less. Okay.
No, it would take longer to pay it back.
That's what I meant longer.
Mr. White, any questions? Mr. Kaczynski.
So, thank you, Carl, for this. The one thing that, the solar system that I have on my house only generates half the power that I need. And I think I've told this board before that my neighbors' power bills are in the $400 to $500 range, and mine goes over $200 only during the Christmas, December, and January months due to my psychotic Christmas habits. But mine paid for itself within 5 years, and they expected it to last, the payback would be longer, and we didn't get the full credit because the state, we were told we would get the federal credit and the state credit. One was 60, one was 40, so we thought we'd get it all back. But the state legislature changed it that year, and we didn't get the 40% back. But I'm extremely happy with mine, and yes, it goes back to the grid and it credits your account. So you could save on the power you're generating, but then the 40% that goes back to the grid gets deducted from your bill as well, because you're selling it back to, mine would be Wake Electric, yours would be Duke. I don't know what Duke pays. Duke doesn't make money from solar panels. They make money from selling power. So, just wanna, that's probably one of the biggest differences you're gonna see.
I think they only give 40% credit if it goes back on the grid because all solar panels are giving back at the same time when it's sunny. Right. So it's not really when they need it. If you can give it back during, in the morning peak or the evening peak, it'd be worth more to them, so they can't justify paying top dollar for it.
Mr. Wilkins.
Carl, I may be a dinosaur, but I'm just not a proponent of solar panels, so I won't be one of those voting in the affirmative. Just want to put that out there.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you very much.
There was your storage, then the site plan, let's bring us.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. Can I just say thank you, Carl, right? I got Carl on my staff, and that means I don't have to do all those things that he's doing for us. And it makes me look smart, right? That's all I want to know. Y'all know that he's a community development department, and we're glad to have him. So I'll talk a little bit about zoning in this item here. This is bringing y'all back to Carolina Secure Storage's amended site plan. Originally approved as part of Large Site Plan 2019-02, Board of Commissioners on September 1st of 2020, approved the outdoor storage yard and parking lot at 2150 NC Highway 56 East. So that was back in 2020 when the board approved the original site plan, LSP 2019-02. In June of 2024, when the code enforcement officer issued the notice of violation for the unlawful installation of prefabricated storage units on site. So you'll all remember back last summer, we noticed that there was this new use that was counter to our ordinance requirements. So on December 3rd, after some work with the staff and the planning board, we went through and found a point of the ordinance that was the contention, and it was amending CDO Article 15, and this board saw fit to do that via ZTA 2024-03 back on December 3rd of 24. So that text amendments allowed the storage units to now be used for long-term storage in this capacity for a commercial setting for these type of outdoor storage uses. Now, since then, the owners do have a redesign that's been included in your package. So this was the original site plan. You'll just see the only area of consideration was that there on the left. But I will say that during this site plan, a full stormwater review was done, and the SNAP tool that we required calculated that entire area as impervious. So the idea of stormwater has been managed at this site, at this location. There was the zoning permit that we issued then for it, but then came the new arrangement. So the units that you see on top of the photograph, the white roofs, are the new, which had been these temporary relocatable units. And this was an aerial photograph that was taken specific to the site to show their layout. But now we have to rearrange them. And the reason that they have to rearrange them is because all those units, now that they're going to be made permanent, were in the building setback along Bowman Road. So let me take you back one slide here. Bowman Road on the top of this picture, and the units are inside what is considered the side yard setback for the site. So then, now the new arrangement shows all the units kind of internal or inside, not at all close to the boundary, and the parking stalls are reoriented and arranged along that side yard setback, which is fine. You can park there. Those units move, the trailers and the RVs and the boats and the things can all be relocated into and out of the setback as needed, but the buildings are going to become permanent. And one of the important components of this approval relates specifically to this anchoring diagram. This is not zoning, this is building code. But the idea is that building code has to be met when these units are permanently fixed to the ground. So this plan shows exactly how that will be done, and it will move forward from our zoning approval to Granville County inspections building approval. So really, the only issue before us tonight is if the board chooses and sees fit to approve this revised site plan, we will reissue LSP 2019-02 with a new date of approval tonight to allow this use to occur as shown. Any questions?
After you ask the questions, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the amended site plan for Caroline Storage, secure storage. After, yeah.
Okay.
I know that the people from Caroline Storage waited a long time, and I'm glad we finally found a way to get this done for that.
Which way? All right, we're looking for a motion to approve amended site plan for Carolina Secure Storage, which we got from Mr. Wilkins. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Mr. Frank, go to your department as always. You've done an excellent job.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right. So now we move to the which is the Washington PFAS report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the Sigwassa meeting that was held, last Tuesday, we had, CDM Smith come in and do a presentation on PFAS and PFOA. And I found the charts absolutely, it was amazing. No, you had, that's it. Yeah. If you look at the red line in this chart, that red line represents the 4 parts per trillion where we need to get to with the new regulations. The lines above it, and Ed and Robert, you can correct me if you need to, because you were both at the same meeting, so if I say something wrong, jump in. As you go along through the 20, 30, 40 days, the lines above the red line are what are the results from the testing that we've done so far. And as you can see from the last 2 dots on that line, we're not that far above the red line on the PFOA. And the numbers underneath it are with the different types of filtration systems that we're trying out to figure out which one is the best one. We can get under those numbers, under the 4, with the new filtration system that they're offering. PFOS, the bottom chart, that's a little different. The numbers are much higher than the little red line there without treatment, but we are pretty much underneath with the new treatment, and there's 3 types of treatment that we're trying to find out which one is the best. But we've been questioned about what the testing was doing and that Sigwassa wasn't doing enough. And there was a response from DEQ last week advising people that we had done, we had taken the $500,000 that we had for the pilot testing, and these are the results that are showing what the pilot testing is bringing forward. Now, the schedule for the pilot testing, on the next page, 2 pages. It shows that the pilot completion date is October 25th, and we will pick the preliminary treatment in May, once they bring us back, I guess, another set of results. But we're getting closer to possibly deciding on which one's the best. The picture above with the tanks, that is a filtration system that's been put in, is it Pittsburgh?
Yes.
In Pittsburgh, which their system, from what I've been told, is smaller than ours, but last year at City Vision, the mayor and I and the Butner representatives met with the company that was doing the Pittsburgh one, and we came back, and I believe the Butner representatives went to Scott and told Scott to check it out and see if what they were doing would work with ours. So we have learned from what other people are doing, and CDM Smith has, as a matter of fact, CDM Smith did that one, didn't he? CDM Smith did that one. So we're on the right track and we're getting close, and I just want people to know that it's not a forgotten issue. And we learned at that meeting also that the charcoal filter system that is in refrigerators will filter out PFAS. So if you have a filter in your refrigerator and it happens to be a charcoal filter, it will filter out PFAS in your home for your drinking water if you want it to. I don't have a filter because I've got a very old refrigerator and I'm knocking on wood that it stays alive for another year. But I don't have a filter in it. But I just wanted to share this in person with the board since some of our citizens and our commissioners weren't at that board, but I think it's very promising, and I think that the projections look very promising. I just wanted everybody to know that I think we're getting close. You think we're getting close?
Yeah, I do. Mr. Mayor, the biggest takeaway on this presentation at that meeting was I asked the designers and CDM Smith's resident guru, I guess you could say, on PFOS and PFAS with all the letters after his name to dictate such, how this system was working out for Pittsboro after the design, because they went with the charcoal filtration system. The water that is coming into the Pittsboro system at the time was a lot higher than anything that we have here. And when they cut that system on, it knocked it down to almost zero. There was no PFOS, no PFOA that they could calculate and read. So that was an outstanding thing to hear. I also made it known that we need to move forward as fast as possible with this type of filtration system. Just because the government says we have till 2029, we don't have till 2029. I want to move as fast as possible with it. And the answer was, of course, we need money to move forward with it. And as everybody knows, and a lot of us on this board have met with our representatives, and we are staying in their ear, and we are definitely meeting with people and trying to get us the money and grants that we need to move this system forward. I just want to make sure that everyone knows it's not one or two members, it's a collective effort from all of us that are elected officials on this board to try to do something to move forward with it.
Any questions, Dan? Let's see. Any questions? Mike and I and a few other folks had, some of our citizens had meeting with our senator. We talked about the donut holes, and then we brought up about our water. And he was very understanding, very positive. Of course, we all need to be looking for grants, but he's trying to push through as many bills as he can to get us some extra funding. At least that's what I got from him anyway. Okay. Let's see. All right, we're looking at 5J, issues with the Board of Commissioners. Commissioner Wilkins.
Mr. Mayor, really quickly, I was just looking for some clarification. I was told by a commissioner that they were told they could not attend a meeting. And I was under the assumption that any meeting a commissioner wants to attend concerning the business of the city of Creedmoor, they may attend. So I'm just looking for some clarification.
Well, in regards to the meeting you were talking about, really wasn't a meeting. It was a delivery of information that we had that we were passing along to another group. There was going to be no discussion. There was going to be no city business discussed, just us passing along. And in situations like that, I don't see that a commissioner needs to be there. Of course, I've always prided myself on inviting commissioners to come to any meetings they want to. But like I said, this one technically wasn't a meeting. It was just, here's the results, here's what we got, here's what we're doing, and out the door. So that was the reason.
Okay.
I really didn't see any point in having anybody
Okay,
there.
I don't know if any other commissioner wants to comment, but okay, thank you.
You want to comment on that?
Well, I mean, it doesn't, I just feel that if a commissioner was appointed to a SIGWASA board and you're having a meeting with the SIGWASA executive, then one of the two of us should be there because we understand it from a different angle that you understand it.
Right, and had there been any discussion to be presented at that, or any discussion of things that have happened or any along that line, I totally agree. There was not to be any discussion. It was, here's our test results, we're giving them to you, basically the extent of the whole meeting.
Okay.
And see, I just don't see that a commissioner needs to sit in on every meeting that the mayor and the city manager have, when it does, some of that stuff just doesn't need commissioner input. And this was one of those that a little bit like this. Okay. Good. Okay. All right. This is 510. All right, this is mayoral privilege. This is always interesting. I forget how stuff I want to say. Creedmoor is established as a mayor, city manager type of government. That basically means we have a mayor who just basically does what mayors do. And we have a city manager which oversees all departments. The departments don't answer to the board of commissioners, they answer to the city manager. Well, they answer to their supervisor, who answers to the city manager. We insist that these employees do not reach out to city commissioners. They don't reach out to each other to feud problems and issues. If you've got a problem in your department, you approach your supervisor, and your supervisor approaches the city manager. At no time does the city commissioner have the authority to correct or be involved in any issue that an employee has. It has to go through the chain of command. That chain of command is supervisor, city manager. The city manager has issues, and he brings it to the city board of commissioners. We are not in the position because of the way we have back in the day. And I think for Commissioner Wilkins, we actually pulled some information on when the charter was changed. Commissioner, let's see, that mic's right here in my hand. The council mayor changed to council manager form of government on August 26, 1997, went into effect October 1st, 97. First city manager was Squirrel Edwards back in 97. The city charter was amended on October 28th, 97. Now, back in those times, each commissioner had a department. There was a police commissioner, a public works commissioner. There was one for every category. Once we moved to the city manager type of government, that all went away. Now, I think when Commissioner Wilkins was first on, or shortly there before, each commissioner had a title as city commissioner, city public works commissioner, police commissioner. And when I came on board, I asked, how often do you meet? Well, we don't meet. Well, how often do you get together and talk? Well, it's been 3 years and I've never had a meeting. So I did away with all that, just the title. It didn't mean anything. But I want to impress upon our commissioners at this point that if employees have an issue with the leadership or other folks in their department, you need to tell them they need to go to their supervisor, and the supervisor needs to go to the city manager. It's not to be worked out in-house. Commissioners are not to have any input other than to tell them you need to go talk to your supervisor. That way, our city manager takes care of it, and that's the order of things are supposed to be. I know we all like to get involved. Employees like to have us involved because they think they're bypassing their supervisor to a different level. That's not how we work. That's not how we're supposed to work. And if it is at any point happening that way now, it needs to stop. If it doesn't stop, then the commissioners that are involved are gonna start being brought before this board for overstepping their authority. Mr. Wilkins?
Well, I apologize to the city clerk earlier today, because I did it last week, something I never, ever do. So I agree with you 100%, we should not do that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Kaczynski?
You just said if employee has a problem with leadership, they need to go to their manager. Their manager is their leadership.
If that's the case, then they need to go to the city manager.
And if they have a problem with the city manager, who do they go to then?
They need to discuss it with the city manager. If he can't handle it, or he feels he needs additional, perspective, then he can either call me in, he can ask us, the sitting commissioner, to sit in with him, but it'll be his call, even if it reflects on him.
Well, because I know that at one city manager that was here, the issue had come up that an employee had a problem with the city manager and didn't have anywhere else to go. And I suggested that we outsource an HR advisor company, so that if you had a problem with the city manager, you did have somewhere to go without coming to us. And it was told no. So that's why I'm asking the
Well,
question.
the other option would possibly be go to HR, if it's the city manager. And then HR can reach out to me if she needs a different thing, or a commissioner or something along those lines. It probably would be me, would be the best one on that. Yeah, but that's strictly for him. Other than that, there's a chain of command. We have to follow that chain of command, and I think we've gotten away from that in certain instances. But I'm putting it out there right now, that's got to stop. It's going to be, if you have an issue, you have a complaint, you go to your supervisor. If your supervisor is the problem, you go to the city manager. At no time, unless the city manager pulls somebody in with it, does the complaint come from a commissioner to a department head or supervisor, or even to the city manager. It needs to go through the proper channel. Any questions? Okay? All right, at this time, I believe that concludes our meeting. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
And go to closed session.
Okay, I'm sorry, it wasn't on the agenda.
I know. But you usually say, is there anything else we want?
Well, and you can.
I would like to know the decision made on the situation with, the police cars and transporting.
We are going to wait until the next meeting, which is our legislative meeting, business meeting, and the city attorney will be here. That way, we're not pulling him into something that has been going on for a while. One more, couple of weeks, it's gonna make that much difference.
As long as nothing happens between now and then, it'll be
That's
fine.
true.
So who made that decision?
I did. I see no point paying an attorney the fees that we have to pay until we can ask the same questions which, and no matter already included. All right, now, any other business needs to go before the board? Motion is made by the mayor pro tem. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you all for attending tonight. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Please